Our story begins in a world that is almost unrecognizable to us now. It's a story not of kingdoms or empires but of survival, adaptation, the very first flickers of what it means to be human. On the vast, sun-drenched savannas of Africa, millions of years ago, our earliest ancestors took their first tentative steps. These were not the humans of today. They were hominins, caught between the world of the forest canopy and the open plains. Compelled by a changing climate, dense forests recede, grasslands expand, they were nudged towards a new way of life. The simple act of standing upright, of walking on two legs, was a revolutionary adaptation. This bipedalism freed their hands, and eventually to grasp objects with a new and powerful precision. Over immense stretches of time, evolution sculpted our ancestors. Their brains slowly but surely began to expand in size and complexity. Their faces began to flatten, their jaws became less pronounced. Different species of hominins coexisted, each with their own unique adaptations. Species like Homo habilis, the handyman, and later Homo erectus, the upright man. It was in Africa, this great cradle of humanity, that the essential ingredients for our species first came together, setting the stage for an unprecedented global expansion. The liberation of the hands was the dawn of a new era. It was the moment our ancestors began to consciously alter their world. The first tools were wonderfully simple, maybe just a stone chosen for its sharp edge, but soon, a cognitive leap occurred. This was the birth of technology. Homo habilis demonstrated this breakthrough by intentionally striking stones together. These Oldowan tools were not just found objects, they were manufactured. They allowed these early humans to butcher carcasses, to access nutrient-rich marrow, and to process tough plant materials, dramatically expanding their diet and their chances of survival. Then came a discovery that would forever change our relationship with the planet, the mastery of fire. But at some point our ancestors learned not just to control it, but to create it. This was a monumental achievement. A controlled flame provided warmth and a protective barrier against nocturnal predators, and a source of light that extended the day. It allowed our ancestors to cook their food. The increasing complexity of social life demanded a more sophisticated form of communication. The anatomical structures for speech were slowly evolving. Language began to emerge. This ability to share complex ideas, to pass knowledge from one generation to the next, was perhaps the single most powerful tool we ever invented. These three innovations formed a powerful feedback loop, each one reinforcing the others. Humans are and have always been fundamentally social creatures. For our early ancestors, survival was not a solitary pursuit, it was a collective endeavor. Living in groups provided a crucial defense against the many dangers of the prehistoric world. A lone individual was vulnerable, an easy target for a saber-toothed cat or a pack of hyenas. But a group could post lookouts, defend a campsite, and work together to drive off predators. This profound need for cooperation shaped our deepest instincts and emotions. Within these larger bands of hunter-gatherers, smaller family units began to form. The bond between a mother and her child is ancient and primal. It likely encouraged stronger, longer-lasting bonds between males and females. Life in small communities ran on social rules and reciprocal obligations. Sharing was paramount. When a large animal was hunted, the meat was distributed throughout the group. Reciprocity meant an unsuccessful hunter's family still ate. These societies were remarkably egalitarian. Status via skill, wisdom, experience, not wealth. Groups were fluid and interconnected. Bands met seasonally to trade, share information, find partners, preventing genetic isolation. This was the first great social network. Connections spread ideas and technologies. Examples: finding stone for tools, new hunting methods, or reliable water locations. In coming together, sharing, cooperating, the foundations of human culture were laid. For hundreds of thousands of years, the story of our ancestors was written only in stone tools and fossilized bones. Their inner world remained a mystery. But then, something extraordinary happened. Deep within the caves of Europe, in rock shelters across Australia and in Africa, the human mind burst into vibrant expression. Around 40,000 years ago, our ancestors began to create art. Using charcoal from their fires and pigments ground from iron-rich earth, they painted breathtaking images. Majestic bison, powerful horses, herds of deer gallop across rock walls frozen in time. These were not mere decorations. Painted in the deepest, most inaccessible parts of caves, they suggest profound significance. Perhaps part of shamanistic rituals, attempts to connect with the spirit world. Whatever the exact purpose, these images mark a cognitive leap, the ability to think symbolically. The first tangible evidence of complex imagination, a desire to leave a mark beyond the moment. The creative impulse wasn't limited to painting. Ancestors began to sculpt. They carved small, intricate figurines from mammoth ivory, from bone and from stone. Personal adornment emerged, decorating the self-expressed individual and group identity. And music? Sounds don't fossilize, but evidence is compelling. Archaeologists found flutes, hollow bird bone and mammoth bone flutes, some over 40,000 years old. Music and dance knit groups together, used in rituals, celebrations, and storytelling. For millennia, humanity lived as nomadic hunter-gatherers, moving with the seasons, following the herds. It was a successful way of life that allowed us to populate every continent. Around 10,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, a profound transformation began. It was a revolution not of stone, but of seeds. In the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East, in China, and in the Americas, people began experimenting with the wild plants they'd gathered for generations. They noticed seeds left on the ground would sprout, and they began actively cultivating them. This was the dawn of agriculture. Instead of finding food, humans began to produce it. They selected wild grasses with the largest seeds, wheat, barley, and replanted them year after year. They learned to tame and domesticate animals. These animals provided meat, milk, wool. This shift from nomadic to sedentary life was one of history's biggest turning points. It meant staying in one place, building permanent homes, and changing our relationship with the land. For the first time, people could produce a surplus, more than immediate needs. But the new way of life brought challenges. Despite this, stable food drove farming to spread rapidly. With surplus food, not everyone needed to farm. Specialization of labor emerged. Some became potters, others became weavers, tool makers, builders. This division of labor powered the rise of complex societies, laying the groundwork for the first towns and cities. The food surpluses created by agriculture were the catalyst for the next great chapter, the rise of cities. As farming villages grew larger and more prosperous, some evolved into bustling urban centers. Uruk in Mesopotamia, Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley, settlements along the Nile in Egypt. This was a radical new way of living. Thousands of people, many strangers, living together in a dense, organized community. That concentration created an environment ripe for innovation and cultural exchange. Life in the city demanded new forms of organization, managing a large population, overseeing irrigation systems, distributing stored food. This led to governments emerging, ruled by priests or kings claiming divine right or military authority. Tracking grain harvests, collecting taxes, recording laws, a revolutionary invention was needed. Writing, pictographs, cuneiform, hieroglyphics. History could now be permanently recorded. The city became a crucible of invention. Masons, metallurgists, scribes, merchants shared and refined ideas. This led to technological cascades. The wheel revolutionized transport and pottery making. Copper, then bronze, made stronger tools. Temples, palaces, defensive walls, monuments of power. These cities were hubs and networks of trade and communication. Merchants traveled by land and by sea, carrying timber, metals, precious stones, and also new ideas, technologies, beliefs. The city became an engine of progress. From the first tentative steps on the African savanna to the bustling metropolises of the ancient world, the human journey is a testament to our remarkable adaptability and ingenuity. It is a story of continuous exploration, not just of new lands, but of new ideas. Each new environment presented challenges that were met with novel solutions. Tailored clothing of Ice Age hunters, sophisticated outrigger canoes of Polynesian navigators. This relentless drive to explore, to discover what lies beyond the horizon, is one of our most defining characteristics. The growth of culture has always been fueled by connection. When different groups of people meet, trade, migration, conflict, ideas are exchanged. Languages borrow words, cuisines adopt new ingredients, belief systems merge and evolve. The Silk Road was not just a conduit for silk, it was a vibrant artery for art, religion, scientific knowledge. That connected the East and the West. This process of cultural cross-pollination has been the primary driver of innovation throughout history. Our greatest achievements are rarely the product of isolated genius, but the result of shared knowledge. Today, in our globally interconnected world, this process of sharing has reached unprecedented scale. An idea born in one corner of the planet can spread to every other in an instant. We are the inheritors of a vast and diverse cultural legacy, a rich tapestry woven from countless threads. First cave paintings, great works of literature, great works of science. We are surrounded by the accumulated wisdom and creativity of all the generations that came before us. This shared heritage is a powerful reminder of our common origins and our interconnected destiny. When we look back at this immense journey, we see that the things that unite us are far more profound. Curious brain, creative brain, social brain that evolved on the African plains. We all descend from those small bands of ancestors huddled around a fire, sharing stories, looking up at the stars with a sense of wonder. Understanding this shared history places our differences in a much larger context. It inspires a sense of humility and awe, and it reminds us that we are all part of one extraordinary human family, fellow travelers on this remarkable planet.